What is up, everybody? It is Og here, back with another video, and in today's video, we're actually going to be jumping back into SM Armory. There's been a lot of people reach out and say that they're really struggling with SM Armory and specific mechanics of the pool, and they find that a lot of mobs are coming at the end, and mobs resist, and then they have too many mobs on them, and things like that. So I wanted to show an updated pool that should help, and there's two very large changes that we're going to be making for those pools, but they should hopefully help you with your runs so that you can get these down a little bit easier. So we're going to be jumping into that. We're actually going to show 3 different VODs. The first one is going to be a full run through or breaking down the individual parts. The second is going to be how a run without cold snap and how you can modify to not have the cold snap. And then the third run is going to be a full run through with no interruptions and show when a defender resists your shatter combo first Nova, how you can modify it to not have any break in the damage. So we're going to be jumping through those. If you do like this, definitely check out the Twitch down below. And I also want to let you guys know about a challenge I'm doing on May 22nd. On May 22nd, we're going to be going from 1 to 60 in under 2 days played and 1 stream session. So I might take a little bit of a nap, but outside of that, we are going to be just grinding as fast as humanly possible using every trick in the book to go from 1 to 60 as quickly as possible. So that's going to be May 22nd, this Friday. Definitely check out the Twitch. Also, let me know down in the comments below if you are interested in this idea where I do multiple runs in an individual video. One of the things I'm thinking about is a potential for a new kind of video series where I do an hour in SM Cath, hour in SM Armory, Mara, and things like that, just so you guys have multiple iterations of the run and you guys can see different scenarios that might happen, whether it be resists, whether it be, a mob pathing or some weird thing going on, or a mob running through Blizzard during kill phases and things like that. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing kind of an hour run through like that. But let's jump into this video. I hope that it helps you improve your armory run so you don't have to keep on spending lips and buying lips with a lot of gold. So this first clip is going to be from our first run out of the 3. We're going to show our gear real quick. So we have decent gear, but nothing crazy special. We have some pieces from MC and things like that. But ultimately, you can do this with pretty much any starter 60 gear. Just go to the auction house, get some intellect and stamina. I'll have a link down below in the description to a Google Excel doc in which I use basically to kind of stat weight for the best AoE farming gear. So feel free to reference that for some good gear. Now, as far as the actual pool goes, you always have these 2 soldiers at the front. Kill them no matter what. If you do have some people that are lower level in your group, maybe as low as, I want to say it's like 28, they will aggro them when they come in, so you'll have to kill them regardless and be ready to pick them up. But if you don't have anyone that low, just take care of them when you get inside, kind of like this. So we're going to be modifying our strat a little bit. Now, in the very first video, what we did is that we stopped before the last hallway. Now, the reason that we stopped before the last hallway is that the mobs at the end, the protectors, the defenders, things like that, take a very long time to get down towards our final kill spot. What typically happens with our original strat is that the mobs don't get all the way down there, and then we ultimately go and we, have some extra mobs that don't get slowed because they're running late, and before we even get out of block, they're not even there yet. So what we have to do is we have to find a way to kind of circumvent that. So we're going to be tackling that with 2 different strategy updates. And so we're going to be talking about those. But the goal is just to get there as quickly as possible. I'm going to blink through this evoker here and just try to get there. If you do aggro the evoker, that's perfectly fine. There's actually a reset spot on the way to picking up all the mobs, so I'll have that in the second run through that you guys can definitely reference anytime that you do pick up a mob by accident. You don't have to worry about sitting there and killing it and taking some time away from your run. You can actually just run to the reset spot and get them reset, and that reset spot's going to be right over here on the left in this room behind the cannons, but I'll show that in the second video. So what we're going to be doing here is you kind of just zigzag around the side, try to take the most direct route possible to get to the end. The evokers are the only pats, and they can potentially pull, but they don't have that large of an aggro radius, so they're easy to get around. And I touched a lot on some individual, candles and things like that you can focus on standing in if you do want to skip them with our first video that we made. But once we get to the end of the hall, we want to get our full buffs, Ice Barrier, Mana Shield, Fire Ward, etc. And you want to get ready for the actual pool. Make sure you get up to full mana. And then what you want to do is you want to wand the last group. You're going to turn around and you're going to cone cold these guys at kind of max range just so you don't get hit too much. And then you're going to be Arcane Explosioning running through. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you Arcane Explosion with rank 1 Arcane Explosion at max range so that you do pull the mobs, but then they don't just immediately turn around and smack you. Your goal is to keep up as much of your shields as possible because at the end of the day, you're pulling a lot of mobs. And right here, that is one key difference with our normal route. Now, what we typically do when we get to this corner group is that we typically Nova right here. And that's what we did in the first video because it kind of groups up everybody in Nova and things like that. But what that ultimately causes is it causes some of the mobs to kind of lag behind near the end and you have a lot of mobs running towards you. So what I've changed and what I do now is I actually face pull these guys and then immediately blink across the hallway. This is going to create some separation with the mobs behind us, and is also going to allow us to pick up those mobs. This also allows us to set up another ice barrier while we're still running through the hall, which goes ahead and saves some mana because we're not relying on mana shield to prevent any of the physical damage coming towards us. But like you see here, go ahead and pull with rank 1 explosion, counterspell that mob in the corner over there, Nova these last mobs as we come through this hallway, and then we're going to rank 1 fire blast that mob on the left and jump around here. Now here is the second change, and so what we typically do is that we typically blink around to the side and we block over here on the left. However, with this strategy, what we're actually going to do is we're going to blink down the hallway, and then we're going to block on the opposite side. So we see all the mobs coming towards us, we blink, we do get hit a little bit more, and so it's possible that you might lose your, ice barrier and things like that. However, all the mobs are going to be stacked on us now, so we don't have to worry about that. And as long as you use a Cancelaura ice block, so I'll have the macro down below, but it's /cancel space ice block, /Cancelaura space ice block. What happens is that all the mobs are going to be on top of us, and we don't need to worry about protector stragglers. Now you could still get resist, and we're going to have resist in, another clip that we're going to be walking through, and so I can show you how to handle those. But the majority of the time, most of them are going to be Nova'd. You have a 99% chance to hit them with the Nova. After 2 blizzards, just stepping away, you're going to blink towards the corner, and they kind of coalesce on you here, and they kind of make a V-shaped pattern. You go ahead and you Nova, and then what you need to do is you want to leverage your cold snap. Cold snap is going to be imperative here. It's really going to help you. And so what you do is you Nova, Flame Strike, Cone of Cold, Cold Snap, Nova. Now we have the Nova all again, and they just took a lot of damage, and then we Cone of Cold again. That's nearly going to kill all the mobs. Now don't go running into them and start doing a ton of damage with Arcane Explosion. Stand still and start casting Arcane Explosion. Then start moving around when some of them die. If you just jump into them, some of them might still be Nova'd. Some of them might not be running away, and they might just beat you and hit you for a good amount of health. And you can see that we only have 29% health. So we stand still, we Cone of Cold, we Arcane Explosion, and we're moving around in a circular pattern because there's still a decent amount of them up. But we don't get hit too hard. We reapply our shields, and then we just finish them off with an Arcane Explosion. As long as you have Cold Snap up, this should be very easy. And you can do the runs quick enough where your Cold Snap is not going to be up, so both Cath and Armory. But typically you're not going to do that, and if you're going that fast, you might as well pull in Library anyways, because you're going to get your groups locked if you're just going that fast. And so you can just pull in Library and market that as an additional benefit. But that is going to be the first run through, so it's pretty easy. We're now going to jump into a run where we did not have Cold Snap and show you the difference where if you don't have Cold Snap's damage, what could potentially happen. So we're back in Armory for run number 2. These are all in succession, so they're right after each other, and you can see the session time kind of up at the top showing the runs. But if you do pull, here is the reset spot. So it's right here in this 4th from the end, right around the bend as you come up here. There's these cannons. You jump behind the cannons up onto this ledge, and this is actually a reset spot, and we're just getting fed mana back from the evoker, so pretty nice. But if you ever aggro any mobs, feel free to use these cannons. Easy reset just to make sure that you don't have to sit there and kill them, and you can just get them within the main pool. So we're going to walk through the pool itself again because I just want to show that perspective a few times. I know a lot of people struggle with kind of the pool itself, and when you're running through, it's really important to take as little damage as possible. So I want to show that perspective again. The difference with this pool from the prior pool is that we're not going to have Cold Snap at the end, which means that we're not going to have the opportunity to get an extra free Shatter Cone of Cold. This is going to have the mobs have a lot more health, and we actually almost die. We make a couple other errors during it, but we almost die. We also aren't wearing, crazy gear. As you saw with our rings before and our trinkets, we're still wearing our frost gear from SM Cath because I typically don't switch over. But if you want to switch over to fire resist, that'll help. If you want to apply any kind of actual killing gear, as far as spell power, it actually kind of does benefit with Flame Strike. Or if you want to have, Uther Strength, that'd be another great one to have some extra barriers for shields. But as we're running through here, we're just trying to mitigate as much damage as possible. You can see my barrier add-on over on the right. This is a weak aura. I did a video for all of my add-ons, so feel free to check out that, but I'll also link down the barrier weak aura down below. But we go ahead and we pull just the exact same as we did before. As far as mana goes, we're sitting at 60%, which is pretty good coming out of the bend. We're going to go ahead and go pool like normal. The difference, though, is that we do not have Cold Snap. And so immediately that causes us to have to be much more conservative with our mana usage and watch our health a lot more. And so we come around the bend here and we actually do get hit a lot. I ice barrier, which causes me to get hit a couple times coming around the bend, and we get into the block with a decent amount of barrier and health this time. However, we're still going to lose a lot of health. And so make sure you're using a Cancelaura ice block to get out of here. We're going to come out of the block. We're going to Nova. We do have a mob on top of us. And so what I decide to do with this mob, just to kind of show perspective, if you get 1 resist, you sheep it. If you get 2 resists, you sheep 1. If you get 3 resists, at that point, maybe it's worth cold snapping again and noving, or you could just tank them. And so what I do here is I want to show, I've had a couple people basically be like, oh crap, I have a mob on me. I can't tank this and still do the damage. And so I want to show that even with 1 mob on you, you could still tank it. So what we do here is we just put up another shield. We do a rank 1 Blizzard to start off, and then we immediately swap over into max rank. However, I swap over to Polymorph. That's Defender in the front. Defenders, you definitely want to make sure that you're polying. But here you can see that we have 2 mobs on us. We just put up another barrier. This Defender is getting close, and so as the Defender gets close, what you want to do is you want to blink away. We blink away, we go ahead for our Nova, and now we need to go for the kill phase. Now, we didn't get anywhere near 2 full Blizzards off. You can see most of these mobs are still at 60, 65, 70% health. And so this is really scrapped at this point. So we're going to have to pull off some crazy stuff to be able to get it down. Now, you could lip, you could pop a health pot, iron grenade, but I try to do it without using any of that stuff. I ultimately think that I did have to use an iron grenade, but we're going to watch that clip and figure that out. But the biggest thing is that you want to make sure that you're controlling the mobs as much as possible. By doing a rank 1 tick Blizzard when they're coming out of the block, or when they're coming out of the Nova, you can apply the slow and then swap over into a max rank Blizzard while keeping them all clumped as a group, because they won't break out of Nova from the very first tick of a rank 1 Blizzard. So here we Flame Strike, Cone of Cold, and we're going to go into Arcane Explosion Spam and Kite, because we do not have 1, much room, but 2, another cold snap. And so because we don't have much room at all and we don't have an ice barrier up, we need to actually run away. And you can see that we're getting pretty low on health. I also did not bring bandages. But if you ever get low on health, what you want to do is that you want to kite as much as possible. And so I have a lot of these mobs really close to dead. And so what I decided to do is I decided to go for a Frost Nova, knowing that I can probably get several of them down. We then get stuck on the weapon rack on the left, or on the right, which is pretty bad. So try not to get stuck on that. But we're at 3% health. I can see my barrier only has 103. And so I put up a mana shield, even though we have 12% mana, knowing that I'm probably going to need some mana. And obviously I have health pots. I have lips I can pop. I can evocate if I, can get a good Nova off and things like that. But I want to show without using any of that, because those are things you can rely on and those are great to have. But what if you don't have them? And so what we do is we actually kite around the outside of this room. Some of the mobs that are lower health are going to be running slower, and the protectors are going to be healing. But the entire time that we're kiting, we're regenning mana. We're constantly getting hit with these fireballs, which is regenning mana for us because we're resisting them. And as long as we keep up our shield, we're probably going to be okay kiting in a large circle. We're also clumping all the mobs up at this point. And so all the mobs are slowly getting congested. And so then we jump out into the middle, we blink away, and we can see that most of them are congested into one solid group. Now, what I didn't realize is that there were a couple that were not. And so I went for the Flame Strike, Cone of Cold to get the kill off. But unfortunately, I had to cancel that early so that I didn't die. And we went back into kiting. Now, the best thing to do here is going to be going into kind of a Cone of Cold kiting strategy with Arcane Explosion. However, with Armory, we have obviously the target dummies, we have the weapon racks, we have other things that are in the way to make that a little bit difficult. And so we have to rely on an Iron Grenade to kind of get some separation. But we're at 66 health. We have no shields up whatsoever. The only thing we have up is a mana shield that we just put up. So it was very, very close to dying. But if you have pots, you should be okay. But the overall kiting strategy, I wanted to include this clip to show you, is that you kite along the outside, just continuously kiting. You can go for bandages then. You're going to have a lot of room to go for a bandage. If you go for a Nova bandage, you're probably going to be able to get up a good amount of health. And you just regen mana from the fireballs, trying to make sure that you can get back up as much mana as possible. We're now going to jump into the final clip. So the final clip is going to be with Cold Snap back up. And so we're going to jump into that one more time and see what happens with that run. Okay, so I skipped through to the end here. And so this is the last run through that we're going to show. But I want to show different perspectives so you guys can kind of mimic it yourself. I'm going to let this one run all the way through and not interrupt it so that we can go ahead and just kind of follow along if you want to follow along. I did skip to the end, obviously, where I was running through, just so that you didn't have to see me running through the instance just to get to the end. But now we start the actual pull. So we're pulling them from a distance. As always, we're trying to keep up our shields as much as we possibly can. Coming around the bends. I do go for a Cone of Cold right there. Don't do that. I was just doing it for fun. Don't do it. We blink across here, reapply our shields, and then we go ahead and get up our fire wards, come around the bend. We're going to see that we're a little bit lower on mana this time, eventually, than we typically were. However, it's not really that big of a deal. As long as you have at least like 30 to 40% to be able to at least do some blizzards, you're going to be good to go. So I go ahead and I use one of my mana citrine, well, not one of my only mana citrine, and we pull the mobs. One thing I do recommend potentially experimenting with is running on the outside path, causing the mobs to kind of jut out a little bit. This might give you a little bit more of a range when you're coming around this final bend to be able to blink across. We do see here that a lot of the mobs kind of coalesce on us, and so we try to get away from them. And we do decently, but ultimately there's some mobs that get caught up to us here. So we reapply Mana Shield and go into our block with about 662 of a protection. Now, a lot of that is going to be Fire Ward as well. So we don't have a very large shield, but we can see that we come out of the block with 100% health, not taking much damage. It's pretty safe. We're going to go for 1 tick of rank 1 Blizzard and then immediately into max rank Blizzard. I accidentally let 2 ticks off go because I was curious why this guardman broke out. I'm starting to notice something odd where one mob is occasionally just breaking out of the blizzard before every other mob. It's kind of odd, even before I hit them. However, I'm not sure what the answer is to that, but what we do is we just put up ice barrier just to handle that, and we're good to go. We can see them kind of stack here, so we're going to go for the Nova. Now, this big difference here is that we do have a defender resist that first Nova. So what I do is I just immediately go into a Cone of Cold and then Cold Snap, Flame Strike, Cone of Cold. Because we had the defender resist the first one, if we immediately went into a Flame Strike, there's a good potential that he is actually going to kick our Flame Strike. And so the best way to handle that is just to kind of flip your shatter combos. And so you Cone of Cold, then you Cold Snap Nova again, Flame Strike, Cone of Cold, and that allows you to get that defender refrozen and make sure that you're not going to get interrupted on your Flame Strike, because your Flame Strike is actually going to be a big portion of your damage. But here you go, we get them down. This is going to be hopefully an improvement that really helps you guys by blinking to the end, not having the protectors on top of you. Obviously, you do see that we do go into blocks sometimes with a little bit less health, or a little bit less of shields at least. However, this is going to be something that does help, and typically you're going to be able to live. We saw that we came out with 182%, I think it was. So you're definitely going to be able to live. The important thing, though, is to make sure you get the pathing down. When you're running through the instance, make sure that you have the mobs at maximum range of you at all times, just so you're not getting unnecessarily hit. Make sure that you don't use Frost Nova inside so that you don't have the protectors stack up on you at the end. And then make sure you blink down this hallway on the left so that you don't get hit by the protectors too much. Hope you guys are able to get the pull down now. So as far as the talents go themselves, these are the talents that I would recommend. Now, what we want to do is we're going to go deep down in the Frost Tree. We don't need to worry about elemental precision because these mobs are such a low level that we're already capped at 99% hit. So we don't need to worry about that. So I put 3 points into improve Frostbolt in case you ever need to pull a mob with a Frostbolt. From there, though, that's pretty standard. We skip over Frostbite, skip over Winter's Chill, jump into Arcane. Here's where there's 3 points you can kind of mess around with. So you definitely want to make sure you have Magic Absorption, but we currently have 3 out of 5 in Arcane Concentration. If we wanted to, we could put those 3 into an improved Arcane Explosion. If you never have mana issues, go ahead and do this, because this can get you an extra 6% crit chance on your Arcane Explosion, do an extra little bit of damage. But if not, I like to keep it in clear casting. It also helps with some other farms where you don't really have to respec as much. So this should be the spec that can work for you, and I'll link it down below. All right, everyone, that wraps up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please subscribe and leave a like and a comment below to let me know so. And if you guys have any other ideas for any other videos, please let me know in the comments below. Also, check out the description for the Twitch where I do all this live, and also for my Twitter and Discord where you guys can be notified of any future updates and when I'm going to go live on stream. So I'll see you guys in the next video.